recording here. Bien, muy buenos días y espero que estén bien, sí, sí. Y feliz Día de Madres, Happy Mother's Day belated, see, to everybody else. Hope everybody had a nice day. Tenemos dos clases. Wow, we've got two more classes left. Para que sepan, just so you know, sí, hoy y la semana que viene, yeah. This week and next week coming up are our last two classes for the spring session. Then we're going to have a week off. The very last week of May will be a week off, and, you know, Memorial Day, a lot of people hit the road anyhow. So, hoy es día de practicar muchísimo con gustar y verbos como gustar. This is always a good thing to take a look at. The reason it is a weird verb, this thing with gustar, is because it is what we call an impersonal verb. Technically, yeah, it's an impersonal. So what that means, the impersonal verb, is that normally we think of me doing something or you doing something or somebody else doing something, but with impersonal verbs, it's really somebody else doing the action to somebody, which is why these verbs act a little bit weird. Okay, pero antes de comenzar, before starting on our gustar and verbs like it practice, I just want to ask if you have any questions about our little video. El video, ¿hay preguntas? ¿Hay alguna pregunta sobre el video? Y este es el libro de Don Quijote. This is my Don Quixote book. Everybody, if you study Spanish even little kids wind up reading Don Quixote. Pesa mucho. This thing must weigh like 7 or 8 pounds. Sí, pesa mucho. Wow, it really weighs a lot. It is for the Hispanic speaking world kind of like being required to read Shakespeare. It's very much like that because it is actually written in very old Spanish. So when little kids read Don Quixote in school, as they do, because in formal school they have to read Don Quixote at some point, they wind up reading an adapted version because, you know, the stories will be the same, but the language is very much old Spanish. So even in books that are printed for native speakers like this one, it is full with annotation notes because there are all kinds of words and phrases that people no longer use in everyday Spanish. And so just like our kids have a tough time reading Shakespeare, people who are native speakers have, struggle through parts of Don Quixote, even though the story is actually both delightful and sad. It's a combination. Okay, alguna pregunta? Any question about that video? Anything you didn't understand about what they said or no? No? Okay. But you notice one of the words they brought up was ingenioso. Ingenioso. Ingenious, resourceful, because Don Quixote was a very, if anything, a resourceful sort of fellow. Yeah. Okay. Bien. All right. So we're done with that. That was just for listening fun. But soon we're going to move on now to gustar and its wannabes. And the wannabes means that they're verbs that are like gustar. We are going to take a look at, make sure I've got my videos lined up properly. Sí, bien. We're going to take a look at kind of as a preview before you practice this. One why it's important, why it's a thing, and why does it give us trouble, and why it's actually less trouble than you think in the long run. Okay. I'm going to play just a little snippet part of this video. One of the verbs, and it's going to talk about molestar. Molestar is a verb that English speakers have kind of an icky feeling about. But molestar is a verb just like gustar. And molestar is actually used a lot. And we're going to see some examples. Oh, I need to turn my sound on here so you can hear them. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about, this other verb, which is one of the wannabes, one of the verbs that is like gustar. And
he's bothering, regardless of who he's bothering, it'll be molesta.
Molesta. So one thing I want to point out about this, because this verb is super, super common, and it is just like gustar. This verb molesta means, does it bother? I mean, in the context of a sentence, it would mean, does it bother? So you might hear somebody, maybe not nowadays, but, well, depends on where you are. If you're in Europe, you might hear it more. You know how people, when they used to smoke in public places, if somebody was being very gentlemanly and nice, or because it would usually be a gentleman, I think, who would say such a thing. Does it bother you if I smoke? Yeah. If somebody shows you a cigarette, because smoking is still, in a way, I think, a bit more common in Europe than it is here, more acceptable socially. People would ask, would it bother you if I smoke? Okay. And the question would be, te molesta, te molesta. So somebody might even just show you a little cigarette between their fingers and say, te molesta. And it would mean, would this cigarette bother you? Te molesta. Okay. Not meaning, am I bothering you? Right. But does it bother you that I'm smoking? And so they're asking for permission. Or in English, the other thing that we say is, would you mind? Would you mind if I smoked? Right. But in Spanish, the way this comes out is this word molesta. So I'm going to let her say a little more with this.
Yeah. If they are bothering regarding of who's receiving that, it would be molestan.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If I'm bothering, it would be molesto. Okay. So it depends who's doing the bothering and then who's receiving it.
Yeah.
So you change.
You could say to somebody, a friend, me molestas mucho.
Me molestas, okay?
Right? With
so
an S.
Tú me molestas. Mm-hmm. So you've got the S for you, because you are bothering me. Okay? Or I can say, te molesto, you, am I bothering you? So that's why I say molesto, because I'm doing the bothering and you're receiving the bothering, yeah?
And this is something that it might come up as a question, te molesto, if somebody feels they're interrupting, if they're butting into a conversation or butting into a situation. So you may hear some verbs like this go into a yo or a tú form, depending. Yeah.
Te molesto? No me molestas. No, you're not bothering me.
Okay. Yeah. But that wouldn't be like, shall I molest you?
No. Yes, that's for another. That's for another lesson. Spanish video. Yes.
Another lesson. Okay. Shall I molest you? No.
That'd be.
No, thank you.
No. That won't be free.
I've just had my lunch. No, thank you. So, let's move on to another verb, and we'll look at
YouTube is going to change. It's going to close our channel.
Yeah. Molestar.
Thanks to you. Molestar.
Okay. Interesar. Okay.
So they're going to shift to a different verb that is like gustar, but you'll see a little bit about this.
To interest. And so the same thing applies. You can say.
Same thing in English. No?
Yeah. Sometimes these work the way that we say them in English. It interests me. Yeah.
Interests me.
But
Doesn't interest me.
we tend to say, I'm interested in. Yeah.
Yes.
That typically. But in the Spanish structure, it interests me.
And look at that sentence. It interests, and it's got the interests with an S because it's it. It is doing the interesting part.
Mm-hmm.
And then you receive the interest, yeah? Mm-hmm. So it interests me. If you change the it for they interest me. So it wouldn't be interests anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what we do in Spanish. Yeah?
Yeah.
So one thing interests me. So me interesa. We wouldn't have the law here for it interests me, okay?
No.
Okay, so an interesting thing to note is that we don't use the word it. If you say it interests me or they interest me, the it or the they part will not have a structure in that expression. Okay. I like it. The word it does not get translated. Okay, because that verb is already in a singular form. And it's talking about something that is only a onesie kind of thing. So, okay.
Interesa is already the it.
That's doing the it, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So me interesa algo, something.
Me interesa tu opinión.
Me interesa tu opinión. Tu opinión is the it, your opinion. Interests, so it's a third person. Me interesa tu opinión.
Mm-hmm.
Me interesa saber qué opinas.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, if you're going to add a verb after me interesa, it's always going to be interesa.
Yes.
Even if you're talking about lots of things.
Yes.
It's always me interesa saber.
So that's interesting too, to know that no matter how many verbs you tag on to the end, if you're using an infinitive after gustar or these verbs like gustar, it'll always have a singular form, even though you're tagging on many verbs, therefore plural, but it isn't really in Spanish. With the verb thing, it'll always say singular.
Saber.
Yeah, when you have a verb or even a list of verbs, is a third person for the verb.
Okay, and obviously you can say, no me interesa.
No me interesa, gracias. No me interesa.
Not bothered. Not bothered. Okay, so then we've got something like fascinar.
Me fascina, me fascina. Oh, that'd be good for you guys to say. Fascina. Ascensor, fascina.
Yeah. So
We
you've
just
got to
don't
do
know
that.
And there they're talking about Spanish pronunciation, that C, which gets the TH sound. So we're going to leave that for now, just as a quick review. The idea, but the reason we saw those is that, again, to kind of inject this idea of gustar and verbs that operate like or have formations like gustar are, in a certain sense, most of the time considered impersonal expressions because you're talking about an object or an activity or a group of things. And they are causing the activity. Yeah. The one thing you want to be very, very careful with gustar is not to use gustar in the yo form. You could do that with molestar, to bother. Yeah, te molesto, and am I bothering you? You know, because you walk into a room and there's a meeting going on, but you don't want to use this verb gustar, this most basic verb gustar. You do not want to use it in the yo form or the tu form unless you're flirting with somebody. Especially for a Mexican. I'm not quite sure about in Spain, but you know, it is considered gustar if we use it on a personal form. So like with the idea of yo or tú, if we conjugated it for tú or for yo, then you know, it's something that's used to show attraction to the opposite sex. So it essentially kind of a come on sort of thing. Yeah. And not in a nasty sense, but even with teenagers, you know, it'd be like the two teenagers. Oh, do you like me? Meaning like, you know, are you Are you attracted to me? Okay, then gustar could go in a yo form or a tu form, but it definitely has a flirty connotation to it. So you want to stay away from that when you're talking about people in just a regular, I like, John Doe who lives next door. Okay. Okay. How do we use these? We're going to look at gustar first, and gustar, and the verbs like it. Most of the time when you hear these, they don't go into that yo form, the tu form, the nosotros form. They go into just two forms most of the time. All right. And this may puzzle you if you're doing some work with Duolingo or you're reading some kind of an article and you've got it. These verbs tend to trip people up, but they're really not that difficult if you think of them as impersonal. Something is giving this feeling or this sensation to somebody. So we're only going to get these in the third person form most of the time. It'll be gustan most of the time, okay? And what combines with it is that little pronoun. So the big no-no is you don't want to say yo me gusta or yo me gusto, okay? It'll always be never using the word yo with it, but always me. Me gusta, one thing is pleasing to me. Me gustan, a plural group of things. I like them. So essentially, those things are causing pleasure to somebody. And the me or the te or the le or the nos or in Spain, the os or the les tells who is getting pleasure from that thing. So essentially, Spanish does not have at all any verb that means to like. It only has to give pleasure. So that's why this trips us up. Okay. Bien. Entonces, ¿sí? ¿Gusta?
Marilyn,
Sí, dime.
Before you kind of jump ahead here, could we just spend a minute sort of going over with something other than gustar, like I guess maybe with molestar, in the 80-20 rule, the 20% of the time you might have a yo or a tu involved in that conjugation?
Sure, sí, claro. Okay.
Let me ask the question maybe to just test if I sort of got a little of it, because I have to admit that tripped me up as I was watching the videos, in prep for this class. So if I wanted to say something like, you are bothering me. All right. So the me is the indirect pronoun. So me molestas, you are bothering
Exacto.
me.
Sí, tienes razón. You are correct. Sí, exacto. Exactly right. So the reason we give a caveat for gustar is because of that flirty connotation with gustar. But a verb like molestar might go into the yo form. But, usually we talk about, well, that thing bothers me, or those kids, they annoy me, or that noise bothers me, hey, what you did, that bothers me. And if you're really meaning, if the intent is, you are bothering me, me molestas. Who's doing the bothering? In this case, instead of a thing like a loud noise or a bad smell, like with smoke from a cigarette, instead of something like that, we're saying that human being really is annoying somebody. So, me molestas. But that is pretty strong. Yeah, it's a pretty strong wag of the finger at somebody to say that, me molestas, which if somebody is truly being annoying, then it's appropriate, right?
But
So
the example you used a few minutes ago, maybe I just need to repeat it to make sure that I got it, about like the smoking. If someone were to ask me, if they smoking is bothering me, so te molesto,
te molesto si fumo. Am I bothering you if I smoke?
I smoke, okay.
Right? Or somebody may just phrase it as does it, the smoking, and they'll usually like hold up with that cigarette in the fingers when they do that. Like us saying, would you mind? And just visually showing that cigarette, and then people know what you mean, right? Say, te molesta, te molesta, te molesta, does it bothering you, meaning the cigarette, right? And then it would be like the cigarette or the smoke, el humo. Te molesta, does it bother you? Does it bother you? Or if they want to say, hey, if I'm smoking, will I be bothering you? Te molesto si fumo. So that could be expressed either way, right? We could take a verb not molestar. We could take a verb like well, we could take interesar. Técnicamente, sí. Me interesas mucho. You interest me very much. Okay.
That sounds flirty there.
Me interesas, yeah. But it's kind of a little bit of a mental gymnastics to think of that, yeah? It is. And most of the time, I want to say most of the time, these verbs will not go into most of the time, these verbs will not be used in a uniform or a two form. It doesn't mean they can't be, but most of the time they will not be. Just because of the impersonal nature of that expression. So now the way to make that maybe less of a problem is this idea of a verb being impersonal actually does happen a lot in English. We just don't think about it. When we say something like, oh, sports cars don't interest me. Okay. Or somebody who doesn't like to get flowers for a gift. Well, flowers, they don't interest me. Yeah. Or even more so, the idea of an impersonal thing. Oh, that show, you don't like a certain TV show. That show bores me. Yeah. And we might say in English, it is boring to me, but you do frequently hear people kind of shift it into the impersonal and say, oh, that bores me. Listening to that teacher talk just bores me. Okay. Or those things, they bore me. Women who don't like sports, well, sports, they bore me. Yeah. So we do have in English this idea of the impersonal, but, very seldom is somebody going to walk up and say, I am boring. Yeah. So that idea with the verb of to bore, that truly isn't what we would consider almost all the time an impersonal verb. You might say he bores me, she bores me. Oh, she bores me. All she ever does is talk about this, this one topic. She bores me. Okay. That's an impersonal thing. That one person or that thing she talks about is boring to me. So we do use that impersonal idea rather frequently. And what is, so, you're going to come up against this in Spanish quite a lot, actually, because it's a really, really long list of verbs. that is like gustar. So the thing to remember is that most of the time you're going to hear just this form or this form. So as you go through Duolingo and you hear verbs like gustar, because usually your antennae are up looking on the lookout for gustar, you know to beware of that. But other verbs will come up that act like gustar, that are structured like gustar. And that is where sometimes we get to a mindset, because it's like, whoa, wait a minute, that verb isn't in a yo form or a tu form or nosotros form. What are they? But it's got a me in front of it. What are they talking about? Well, they're talking about that thing creating a reaction, a feeling to somebody. Okay, it is an impersonal verb. And most of those verbs, most of the time, you're going to hear it in a singular verb form or a plural verb form, but always third person. Okay, so gusta and gustan, encanta, encantan, interesa, interesan. That's the way you will hear those. And then we'll have a little pronoun in front of it, and the pronoun tells who has that reaction emotionally. Okay. The thing to also remember a little bit is here, you may hear it as, it kicked me out of my keyboard. Sorry about that. A mí me gusta, or a mí me gustan. This a mí part doesn't have to be used. Okay? The a mí phrase, or the a ti phrase, or the with the name of a person. So I'll give you a little example here. A ti te gusta, right? Or a ti te gustan. Or if you're talking about one human being, now we're probably going to have a name in there. A Jorge le gusta, right? A los niños les gusta, right? All these little phrases, when you hear an these are, if you will, icing on the cake. They are extra. They are, in this case of a ti, or in this case of a mí, they are considered emphatic. Somebody may choose to use it, or they may choose not to. It's totally up to them. In a case like this, the a with the name of a person is a specific, what they call a clarifying phrase. If you came in halfway through a conversation and you don't know who I'm referring to with that word le, that it happens to be not a gal, not the formal usted, but a guy, and his name, that guy, is Jorge, then if I think you don't know who I'm talking about with using that word le, then I'll add that little extra phrase, and it'll usually come up front. That a phrase will come straight out right away at the beginning if people choose to use it. Okay? It is a clarifying or an emphatic phrase. Grammatically speaking, it isn't necessary. Grammatically speaking, I can totally omit the idea of a los niños and just say les gusta. Okay. What is not okay to do is to phrase an idea like this. A los niños gusta. This is not possible to say. We cannot omit this little itty bitty pronoun. Even though this is talking about, more specifically who we mean by that word les, you can't leave the word les out. I can leave this part out. I cannot leave this little word out. Okay, it is totally, totally essential. So icing on the cake, but I can't get rid of this word me. I can't get rid of this word, te. I cannot get rid of this word les or le or nos. I can't leave that out. It's got to be there. Okay? Bien? So, with singular things, always gusta, right? Me gusta la música, te gusta la comida picante, le gusta la ropa nueva, le gusta el café, les gusta el otoño, they like autumn, nos gusta Mexico, we like Mexico, and with activities. No matter if it's one activity or three things or whatever number, it'll always be gusta with things that you do. When we use an infinitive, it is always gusta, singular. Me gusta montar en bicicleta. Te gusta leer y escribir. There's an example of two infinitives. It's still gusta, right? Le gusta hablar con él. Les gusta viajar, nos gusta ver películas. And notice, even though the focus here, the focus is not on movies. The focus is that what gives you pleasure is watching. So when we inject, this is the difficult example. This one, nos gusta ver películas. Because in English, your brain is thinking, we like watching movies. Movies must mean more than one. But it is not nos gustan ver películas. Gustan would not be correct here. In order to say, make that gustan, I have to take out that whole word ver. And then I could say, nos gustan las películas. I could, nos gustan las películas. We like movies, right? But if the focus is we like watching is an activity. So it has to say nos gusta ver películas, right? We like eating apples. Nos gusta comer manzanas. Nos gusta escuchar canciones de Juanes. I like listen to Juanes songs. Nos gusta escuchar las canciones de Juanes, okay? It's got to be singular because the focus is on that activity, not on the idea of películas. Does that make sense? See? Okay. That is the one that's kind of a stickler. It's a sticking point that's tough. Okay, let's take a look at our plurals.
Can I ask a question? If you go back like 2 slides, the one that had the not the verbs, but the like liking things.
Oops, perdón. Gotta get my share screen on. Okay, go back to like here.
Yes.
Okay.
So all of these examples in the, in the object that's being liked, or that's giving pleasure, you've got like la música, la comida, but can you also use possessive pronouns there? Like I like my, my things, or like me, me gusta mi música, or
I like my new clothes.
Yeah.
I like my car. Sí, se puede, sí. Me gusta mucho mi carro nuevo. I like my new car a lot. Sí. Okay. You could. Now, actually that brings up a good point. Why do I have well, in this case we don't have el there, but this is showing us that the thing that causes pleasure is what is driving that verb gusta, right? So who likes it is totally driven by the little pronoun, the me, the te, the le, the les, the nos. Okay, but the thing that is liked drives that verb gusta. In most cases, when we're talking about a category of things, like music, dance, you really like sports cars, or you like antique cars, or whatever it is. We need that el, la, los, las. Okay, so that's the other little hitching point. And now this point is a kind of a no big deal, but it helps you to be understood better. When we say I like music, that means I like music in general. And when we talk about something in general, they will use the el, la, los, las. In English, it is not that way. I like music. We would not say in English, I like the music, right? I like well, you might say, I like the music of the Rolling Stones. Okay, you might say that, but generally people just say, I like music, right? And in English, we don't have the word the there, okay? But in Spanish, they do use that, because you're saying that I like everything in this category. Things in this category please me, okay? And when we talk about a noun as everything in this category, we do use the word la or el, whichever it falls into. So la comida picante means all spicy food. Spicy food as a category of things that you stuff in your mouth. La ropa nueva means new clothing, right? El café means I just like coffee, that category of beverages. And when we talk about a noun as a category of all things that fall into that category, we do in Spanish use the el, la, los, las, whereas in English, we don't bother with it. Okay, so it makes you sound more in the know, more native, to make sure you're always including the el, the la, the los, the las, whatever it may be for these things. Could it be a me? It could. Could it be a tú? Oh, me gusta tu música. I like your music. If you wanted like an autograph from a famous singer, me gusta tu música. Sure, you could use a possessive. That would be okay. These are good questions that you've got. Okay. So what you're going to notice here, moving on, just before we get into our practice here, is when we go into this plural idea, that idea of the las or the los becomes, it kind of sticks out a little bit more, right? We would say in English, I like oranges, and there's no the in there with oranges in English, but we're talking about all fruits in this category that we call oranges. So that it does sound a little odd to them if you omit the idea of las in that phrase. But will you be understood? Yes, you'd be understood. But it should be, me gustan las naranjas, me gustan las flores. I like flowers, all flowers as a category. All those things that we call flowers, I like them. Me gustan le gustan los animales. He or she, or you formal, like animals, meaning all animals. You're an animal lover. Me gustan los animales. All right. If you say le gustan animales, you will be understood. It's a mistake that they will understand you, but it sounds funny, odd to them to omit the word los. Les gustan los postres. They, or you guys plural, they like desserts, all kinds of desserts, sweet things that you eat at the end of a meal, right? Nos gustan las fiestas. We like parties. All parties in general. So do remember to use the el, la, los, or las when you talk about that thing that is liked. Es importante. That's an important thing. Okay. And it's also good to know that these are only some, because there are a bunch, and I can't give you a complete list. There are so many of these. Yeah. I can't say, know all this list of words, and you'll know all the words, all the verbs that behave or might behave like gustar. Because if I gave you a list, I'd be leaving something off. There's always one hangnail hanging off the end there. But these are some very, very common ones that people frequently use. Interesar, encantar, doler. When we talk about a body part that hurts, that body part causes pain to somebody, to me, to you, to whoever, so doler is in that mix too. Importar, molestar. And this idea of importar really means to be important. But the word we flip into that is not always the word important. It's the word matter. Okay. So
how would you say somebody's bothering me? You say not to use the molesta.
Yeah, molestar.
It's too mean or something.
Well, it's harsh. It's kind of harsh. It's not harsh when you're talking about a thing like me molesta el ruido aquí. The noise here bothers me. That's not rude. But now if you're talking to a friend, right? You see some guy, you see some gal at a party, you don't like that woman, right? Ella me molesta. Sí.
Okay.
Me molesta. She bothers me. Okay. Oh, would you say that to a friend? Yeah. If somebody really bugs you, you're likely to say that. Are you saying it on purpose so she can hear you? Of course not. Do we all do that? Yes, we do. But, in terms of using that in a tú form, see, me molestas, you're bothering me. That is kind of a strong thing to say to somebody. So you want to, be careful. If somebody is being truly, truly obnoxious, just visibly horrible person, then it might be appropriate. But yeah.
Well, you just used an example. I think you said ella me molesta.
See,
I guess that means that she is bothering me.
Yeah.
Did we?
Juanita me molesta.
Putting the kind of the who's doing the bothering somewhere else in the phrase.
Yeah. This would be a common figure. Juanita me molesta. She bugs me. She annoys me. She bothers me. Right?
Why it's me?
Yeah. Oh, perdón. Yeah. Carmen me molesta. Yeah, we'll put a different name in. Carmen. Yeah, Carmen. She's a pain in the butt. Yeah, me molesta. Yeah. And okay, so yeah, see, so yeah, to like confront somebody with the tú form would be seen as, but there are people in public places who sometimes do. So, depending on the context, everything of course depends on the context, but in any event, these are just a sampling of the kinds of verbs that can behave like gustar. And we're going to plug two other ones in here because the question always comes on, what if you want to say you like a person? You don't mean that you want to go out on a date with them. You just like them, right? You like your boss. You like your new coworker, nice guy, the guy who's sitting in the next cubicle, and you're not going on a date with the person. You just like them, right? And this is the phrase that is used, caer bien, to fall well. I know that sounds very, very odd, but it's what they use. So, and this is something where a yo form, could come up. So I'll show you what that sounds like. Okay. Normally, you want to say something like, me cae bien. Oh, I don't want my blue. I just want a plain. So how does caer bien work? It works like this. Me cae bien. Me cae bien. Mi nueva colega. Mi nueva colega. Yeah. My new work colleague. I like them. Me cae bien. Mi nueva colega is one person. So cae falls well on me. See? Me cae bien mi jefe. Me cae bien mi jefe. Me cae bien I like my boss. See? Me caes bien. I like you. And that, I like you. There it is. A tu form for caer. Me caes bien. I like you. Me caes bien. And if you want to say, I don't like you, we either put a no in front of it, or you can switch it. It could be no me. Better we use this with boss. No me cae bien. No me cae bien mi jefe. I don't like my boss. That would make it into a negative. Or me cae, we flip out the word bien for the word mal. Either of those things can make it a negative. Don't like that person. Can either no me cae bien or me cae mal.
No.
Okay. You want to say you don't like the kids who live next door. You don't like the neighbor's kids. They have wild parties. They have, oh man, yeah, beer bottles all over the front yard come Sunday morning. What a pain. Okay. No me caen bien los hijos del vecino. I don't like my neighbor's kids. No me caen bien. So when we talk about liking people in a non-romantic sense, just in a very casual way, it's caer bien. Okay? Just so you know how that works, because that was a little tricky. And that could go into a yo form, could go into a tu form. It could, all right? But gustar, you're not going to hear in the yo and the tu forms, really, like 1% of the time. That's all you're going to hear it, right? Parecer is also used like these verbs that are like gustar, to say that something seems a certain way. So you may hear parecer as parece or parecen. Me parece, it seems to me. Me parecen, they seem to me. Okay, so these are verbs that behave like gustar. Okay, and well, here you got your examples. Bien. Parecer, one thing you should know about parecer is it is often used as a substitute for what do you think or what's your opinion. What do you think about that? Hey, what do you think about going for a short ride today? Right? If you're asking somebody's opinion, this verb parece can be used in that way, in that context. ¿Qué te parece este restaurante? How does this restaurant seem to you? In English, we might say it this way. What do you think about this restaurant? Meaning, do you want to try it? Okay. So that ¿qué te parece? ¿Qué te parece? How does it seem to you? Is often used to ask, do you want to try this thing? Would you like this? Okay. Bien?
The same meaning with
Vale.
que opinas.
Question before we start some practice. Any questions?
Yes, so that's that question of the te parece. When you're asking someone, is that instead of que te opinas? You can use
It
that
can be
too?
used instead of que te opinas. Sí.
Okay.
Exacto. Exactly right. So this can be used maybe instead of ¿qué opinas?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
What do you think, right? What do you think about blah, blah, blah? Yeah. What's your opinion on blah, blah, blah? Yeah, right. So there's more than one way people might say these ideas to you, right? The reason we take a look at this stuff is that, you memorize a certain thing out of a book and then somebody speaks to you and they use a totally different word and you get all flummoxed. Oh my God, what do they mean? Well, just as in English, because we do that a lot in English, there's more than one way to ask a question or say an idea. If you want to ask, you might say, In-N-Out Burger. You're talking about In-N-Out Burger. Do you like In-N-Out Burger? Hey, what do you think about going to In-N-Out Burger? Hey, how does it seem? There are different ways we might use in English. So the same thing happens in Spanish. They may use more than one idea for that kind of a question. Okay. Vale. Bien. Let's do a little bit of practice. I'm going to show you what we've got for our practice on the screen. And I do want to send you to work on this in some little groups here. But we're going to preface this with a little bit of stepping through going through the steps and making sure you know what each sentence means. So you're going to add something onto this to make an idea that makes sense. A los niños de 5 años les gusta, or it might be les gustan mucho. They like something. You might talk about a thing. You might talk about an activity. Either way. 5-year-old kids like something a lot. And you're going to talk about a thing they like, or things, plural, they like, or something they like that's doing something, right? In which case it'll be an infinitive, not an actual physical object, right? No me gusta, and I want you to plug in an activity. It's going to it'll have to be something ends in AR or ER or IR. Talk about what you don't like to do. A mi pareja, your partner, le gusta. What your partner, your spouse, your better half, likes. Pero no le interesa, or no le interesan para nada. They don't like something else at all. And I should put in here, this might be a gustan as well, right? You're going to use one of those combinations. A los atletas en el maratón les duele. People who run a marathon, what hurts? It might be one, and then we're looking at the body part. If it's la rodilla, we're going to inject the duele, la rodilla, a knee, right? If it's feet, more than one, it'll be duelen, right? If it's a hip, just one hip, it'll be duele. But what happens to duele or duelen will depend on the body part that hurts a marathon runner. Okay, makes sense? See? Bien? Okay,
Sí.
so you're filling in the line. About 5 minutes enough, or do you need more than that, you think? Because you just...
5 seems all right.
Cinco, más o menos. Okay. Let's put you in some smaller groups so you can actually practice this. And okay, está bien. You are going to see the questions in the breakout rooms. Bien. And I'm going to set that up right now. Bien. Mm. Okay, and Barb and Pam, I apologize. I forgot to put you in the Zoom room, but just ignore that next time we go off. So it's okay. Está bien. We should have people coming on back real soon.
Las pies.
Okay. Fantastico. Let's share some ideas of what you had as ideas to finish the sentences. What happened to my cursor? Where'd it go? Aquí. Okay. Aquí viene. Here we go. Muy bien. Let's share some ideas of how you finish these sentences. A los niños de 5 años les gusta o les gustan.
Mucho los dulces.
Otra vez, again, perdón.
A los niños de 5 años les gustan mucho los dulces.
Los dulces, candies, yeah, sí. Les gustan los dulces, sí. Les gustan los dulces. Claro, muy bien. ¿Qué más? What else?
A los niños de 5 años les gusta el postre.
Les gusta el postre. They like dessert. Muy bien, fantástico. ¿Qué más?
I had a los niños de 5 años les gustan mucho los galletas.
Les gustan, and there we need an N at the end. Les gustan mucho las galletas. They like cookies a lot. Sí, claro, las galletas. Les gustan mucho las galletas. Bueno, ¿qué más?
Seems like all of us are only thinking that 5-year-olds only like pastries.
How
Oh.
about an activity?
En al parque.
Yeah. Sí.
Jugar en el parque. Les gusta, and there would have to be gusta because it's jugar. Les gusta jugar en el parque. They like playing at the park. Perfecto. Les gusta.
Escuchar. Escuchan. No.
Escuchar. Listening
Yeah,
to.
you would say, oh, okay. I was trying to say to sleep. I forgot
Oh,
what it was.
Dormir.
Dormir. Les gusta dormir. Oh, if kids don't like to take a nap, no les gusta dormir, right? Some kids will not take a nap at all. I've had both those kinds of kids myself. Bien. Les gusta jugar en el parque. Les gusta jugar con los animales.
Sí.
Les gusta pasar un rato con los amigos. They like spending time with their friends. Les gusta pasar un rato, spending time, pasar un rato. Bien. Otras ideas. Any other ideas for that, what they like to do? ¿Sí o no?
Le gusta hacer un lío.
Okay, sí. Okay, bien. Oh, perdón.
A los niños de 5 años les gusta beber jugo.
Les gusta beber jugo. Bien, sí, exacto. Okay, so, fantástico. Buenos ejemplos, buenos ejemplos. A mí no me gusta, a mí no me gusta. Or no me gusta. I don't like doing something. No me gusta.
No me gusta jugar el tenis.
No te gusta jugar al tenis. Ok, bien.
No me gusta lavar la ropa.
No.
No.
Y a mí tampoco. A mí tampoco. Me either. A mí tampoco. ¿No me gusta?
Nadar.
No me gusta.
Nadar. Ok. ¿Otra idea? Another one, and I'm sorry, I can't see your hands up because I've got my share screen on, so you guys went
Okay.
off my screen.
Okay. No me gusta manejar largas distancias.
Bien, no me gusta manejar, bip, bip, manejar largas distancias. I don't like driving long distances or taking long trips. Eso, bien. A mí, no me gusta viajar por crucero. I don't like traveling on a cruise ship.
Okay.
Sí.
¿Otra idea o no?
Oh.
No me gusta correr. Correr.
Correr. Correr.
I'm trying to conjugate it.
Okay. Now,
Put an N on correr.
Now, don't feel bad about that, but that's something you got to fight against a little bit, right? Okay, because you train yourself so darn hard to conjugate those verbs. Yeah, isn't that true? And then what happens is now you're in a situation where you got to flip it back into the infinitive. So where you might say, I don't like running, right? I don't like running, or I don't like to run. It'll have to go in the to run form in Spanish. Spanish uses that. It will not say running. It will say to run.
Right.
No me gusta correr.
No me gusta correr.
Bien, perfecto. Okay. No me gusta correr. No me gusta. No me gusta. No me gusta limpiar el baño. No me gusta limpiar el baño. I don't like cleaning the bathroom. ¿Sí?
También.
Eso? Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some examples of what whoever your partner is, what they don't like.
What they like, right? This one is what they like.
Or, perdón, sí, what they do like. Sí, perdón. Primero, sí.
Le gusta montar, a mi pareja le gusta montar en bicicleta por una larga distancia.
Okay,
Yo
bien.
prefiero corta distancia.
Okay. Corta distancia, short
Sí.
distances. Sí,
Sí.
eso. Magnífico, magnífico. Le gusta montar. They like riding. Bien. Or he likes riding. She likes riding. Okay, bien. Otra idea.
A mi pareja le gusta mucho el pesca con moscas en el océano.
En el océano, in the ocean.
Océano.
Okay, bien.
Like, was that? I looked it up and it said pesca con mosca.
Well,
fly fishing?
Fishing is generally just pescar. Pescar.
Okay.
Pescar. Pescar is
Okay.
fishing. Sí, pescar. La actividad. Yeah, catching fish. Catching fish is called pescar.
Okay.
Bien. Okay.
Prefiero comer pescado.
Sí, le gusta comer pescado. Sí, bien, solamente pescar. Some people really like the action of fishing more than they like eating the fish. Así es. Okay. And let's flip it too. And notice, instead of gustar, because I don't want to be repetitive and just keep saying the same thing, I flip it into a different verb, but it behaves like gustar. no le interesa, pero, but, and so now we're giving the flip side. They like doing this, but they're not interested in this. Pero no le interesa para nada, not at all.
Ir a un centro comercial.
No le interesa. Sí, a mi esposo no le interesa ir a un centro comercial. He doesn't like going shopping. No. A mi pareja no le interesa pasar tiempo en la playa.
Ah,
No le interesa pasar tiempo en la playa.
¿Por qué? ¿Muy calor?
No sé por qué. Le gusta pasar tiempo en las montañas, en el desierto, le gusta caminar, le gusta montar en bicicleta, pero no le interesa
En la playa.
la playa, no le interesa la playa. Y no sé por qué. No le gusta nadar.
Well,
A mi esposa no le interesa para nada comer, I hope this is the right word, comer perritos calientes. To eat hot dogs.
Okay. Okay, sí. Bien. Sí.
that's the right word? Is that the right translation?
For hot dog.
Perrito
Is there a better
caliente.
word for hot dog?
Is the word for
Hot dogs,
dog?
perros calientes. Sí,
Perros, oh.
perros calientes, yeah, hot dogs. They will use that. I've heard some people just use hot dog. Yeah. So it depends on how much interaction they've had with, los gringos. Sí, a mi esposo no le interesa comer los perros calientes. No, sí. Bien. Okay, otra idea. Anything else for something that somebody is not interested in at all?
No le interesa para nada el fútbol, mirar el fútbol.
Mirar el fútbol. Okay, watching soccer. Sí. Es así, muchas veces. Okay. Okay, bien. Okay, doler. Let's take a look at doler. Doler. And that goes into either duele, it hurts, one body part, or duelen, more than one, because, if we want to talk about both of our eyes or both of our shoulders or both of our hands or both of our feet, then we need that plural thing, plural verb of duelen. So it depends on which body part or which body parts hurt. Okay, a los atletas en el maratón.
¿Les duelen las pies o pies?
Los pies. Les duelen los pies. Perfecto. Bueno, ¿qué más?
¿Les duelen los piernos?
Las piernas. Les duelen las piernas. Their legs hurt. Sí, les duelen las piernas. Perfecto, muy bien. ¿Qué más?
I have a question. I didn't do this one with our little group, but can you use this to say les duele en todos lados, like the whole body?
Buena pregunta. Okay. A lot of times when you just want to say everything hurts, it'll be the word todo, everything. So, les duele todo, everything hurts. Les duele, because todo is singular, that's what we're left with, yeah? Duele, that singular thing, les duele todo. You could say les duelen todas las partes del cuerpo. But yeah, just todo will be, yeah, the usual reaction there. Okay, a ver, let's take a quick look. You're going to get a chance to work with these next, so we'll preview what they are. Me parece, and you might say bien, so if something seems good to you, or you might say mal if it seems bad to you. Me parece bien or me parece mal la comida picante, but we're talking about a specific thing here, how this seems to you. Okay. And instead of bien or mal, you could put a different kind of description in, like fantastic. Me parece interesante, seems interesting. You're right. You can put anything besides bien or mal, but something describing how you feel about spicy food. Nos molesta. We're bothered by something. And whether it's molesta or molestan, you need to inject an idea. A un jefe normal, a normal boss. A normal boss. Oh, what matters? What's important, right? Le importa, what matters? Importa means something is important to that person, something matters to that person. Importar. Okay. But we've got le because it's talking about un jefe normal, usual kind of boss, right? A mi mejor amigo, and what they love, because encantar bumps gustar up to a higher level, right? It's saying that you love something, you're just crazy about it. A mi mejor amigo or a mi mejor amiga le encanta or le encantan, and me cae bien. Talk about anybody you like. It could be a famous person that you like in the movies. It could be a singer that you like. It could be anything at all. Okay. 5 minutos, 5 minutes. Was that a good time period? See?
Yeah.
Bien?
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastico. You will see those questions in your breakout rooms when you get there. And let me get my share screen so you see those questions. ver, bueno. Ok. Ok.
All right.
Bueno, a ver, vamos a ver. Let's take a look here. Bueno. A ver, ideas. What ideas can you share about these? And the first one is maybe just, how something seems to you, so it may not be as interesting in terms of,
That was your gimme for us.
Ok. Bueno, ¿te parece? ¿Te parece bien? A mí me parece bien la comida picante. ¿Sí?
Sí,
Ok. A
¿verdad?
ver. How about the nos molesta? Or nos molestan? What kind of things bother us?
No, nos molesta el ruido en un restaurante.
Sí, sí, es verdad, sí. Nos molesta el ruido, noise, el ruido. Eso es, en un restaurante, sí. Bueno, ¿qué más?
Nos molestan los perros que ladrar constantemente.
Guau, 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 guau. Sí, nos molestan los perros que ladran, bark, que ladran constantemente, sí, todo el tiempo. Nos molestan los perros ruidosos, noisy dogs. Nos molestan los perros ruidosos. Ok, vale, ¿qué más?
Nos molesta el tráfico.
El tráfico, nos molesta el tráfico. Traffic bothers us. Perfecto. Muy bien, muy bien.
Nos molesta la comida aburrida.
La comida aburrida, boring food. Yeah, the stuff that has no spice in it at all, no seasoning at all. Bien, bien. Eso es. Muy bien. Ok. A un jefe normal. This is not the boss from hell, but the nice boss, a nice kind of boss, yeah. A un jefe normal le importa
Sus empleados.
Le importan los empleados, sus empleados. Le importan sus empleados. Their employees matter to them. Sí, a un jefe normal le importan los empleados. Perfecto. Qué bien.
A un jefe normal le llegar a tiempo.
Le importa llegar a tiempo, getting there on time. Le importa llegar a tiempo, getting on time, getting there on time. Eso es, sí. A un jefe normal le importa la calidad de los productos. ¿Sí? If you produce something, quality of the products, okay. Le importa a un jefe normal, le importa la condición de las computadoras. Working order of the computer system, right? ¿Sí? La condición de las computadoras. Sí, bien. Okay, sí, siguiente. My best friend, what my best friend likes Loves. Not just likes, loves.
A mí.
Ah,
Sí, sí,
sí, ok, bien. Ah,
yeah.
a mi mejor amigo le encanta, a mi mejor amiga le encanta, le encanta hacer artesanías, making handicraft stuff, hacer artesanías. Le encanta. She loves making handicraft kind of things, crafty things. See? Okay.
A mi mayor. A
Bien.
mi mayor amiga le encanta pintar.
Ah, le encanta pintar. Bueno, muy bien.
Sí, sí.
Fantástico.
A mi mejor amiga le encantan tener muchos gatos.
Ah, muchos gatos, ok, vale, sí. Tener mascotas, sí, le encanta tener mascotas, likes having pets.
Ajá.
Bien.
Oh, para mascotas.
Me cae
Mascotas.
bien. Talk about somebody you like. Unos ejemplos, an example. Can be anybody. Me cae bien. Me cae bien. Me cae bien. Me cae bien. El cajero en el supermercado. I like the usual checkout guy I get at the supermarket. Me cae bien el cajero en el supermercado.
Me caen bien los higos porque son buenos músicas.
Okay. So if you're talking about a plural thing, it's me caen bien, right? Make sure you have an N. Me caen bien, me caen bien. ¿Sí?
Thank you.
Sí, eso es. Okay. Algo más. Anything else? Who's a human being you want to talk about liking? ¿Sí o no? Okay. We're right up about to 11 o'clock time here. Son las 11. So we're going to talk a little bit about these prompts, and we'll do that as kind of a tie it up sort of activity. La semana que viene, next week, because next week is our last week for spring semester. I'm going to give you for listening, and this is going to be kind of long. It won't be story, but it'll be something about conversing, and I'm going to have a little list of similar questions that we're going to use and adapt. Now, you're going to hear a little bit of past, and I'm going to plug in the question section that accompanies this video. I'm going to plug in how to just use that one word that will insert the past. Because, for example, por ejemplo, they're going to talk about how was your first job? And these are going to be just plain old conversational questions, not necessarily using gustar, but using anything. So we're going to start off with the picture prompts that use gustar and verbs like gustar, but then we're going to seg into just some regular conversational questions, regular speaking that people do day by day. You're going to have a set of similar questions. I think there are like one or two that we're going to like totally skip because they use some advanced grammar stuff. But these are like, everyday things that people generally do talk about. Bien, okay, todo bien?
Bien.
All good?
Oh, good.
Excelente. Bueno, so some just general conversation questions with the new video, and we'll tie up the loose strings before we do that with those photo prompts with gustar. Okay? Bien?
Okay.
Gracias.
Excelente. De nada. Fue un placer. It was